the crowd and applause was also because crowd was there. It was not because I was there. I would think that no, everything is for me, but no, I think the owners provided the place. I was there, crowd came, they enjoyed. So my idea, what I realized totally, even after 10 years, I like to make people happy, but it is really difficult to make everyone happy.
The following is a long, open conversation with Bhaskar Kaushik, management consultant and YCP Solidiance, with experience in the real estate industry and former resident DJ at Manchester United. We got the chance to sit and talk about many topics, like which are the pros and cons of the music entertainment industry, how has been the little differences he found across Europe, the Americas, and Southeast Asia, and how running has impacted his life since the time he discovered until now. This is On the Long with FVR podcast. If you like this thing, feel free to like and subscribe and to contribute to the channel on the description below. And now, your featured presentation. Usually people will start saying where we got the coffee from, right? But,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's not about who gave us the coffee, but if the coffee actually works, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Anyways, I guess it's time to start. Let's see. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on The Long with FVR. Today we have Bhaskar. Thanks for
Hello
joining us, man.
everyone. I'm doing great.
So, it is fantastic to see that we have a coffee in our hands, right? It was not part of our sponsors, but it happens to be right now one of the multi-family Asian wealth management going on in the school. So
Yeah,
it's like, well, the more you know, the better.
yeah. They offered us food, and we just decided we'll do coffee right now and
Yeah,
sort of like wake up.
especially because we realized that it is more and more difficult to find coffee that actually works.
Yeah, I think I like this coffee.
Yeah.
I like anything that's free.
Oh yeah, it is. Talking about things that are usually very good to know in life, people may be asking a little more about our guest today. So they want to know who is Bhaskar or where you come from. So can you tell us a little more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Bhaskar Kaushik. I come from a place called Patna, Bihar. I was born there, did my schooling there, then moved to Bangalore when I was about 18 years to do my engineering in electronics and communication. Then worked there, worked as a DJ, finished my school. Then I ended up playing music for like under a couple of years, and then I joined under firm where I think I spent 9 years working in multiple different departments from technology, finance, strategy. Then I just thought COVID happened, and then I took a GMAT, came to this school, and that's that's where I am. And amazing. So one more thing about me is I love to walk, and so that's my superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
and
fantastic.
that's mostly also because you have inspired me in my MBA program with
Nah.
your own marathon and training and stuff like that.
No. People will be like, okay, Fabian can be doing that, but it's like, can you finally get the job done? That was maybe the biggest controversy that was going towards the marathon because
Yeah,
people were looking at me and it's like, but are you wrong one? It's time to call out some people like Andres or Rafael were like, but are you wrong one? And it's like, but I already did 3 before. And they were like, but can you finish one now? Like, yes. And actually, that happened in the end. They gave me this bracelet by the
yeah,
time I
yeah,
was finishing kilometer 39 or something. They gave me the finisher T-shirt, which, by the way, was also a good self-critique because why they gave you the finisher T-shirt to the full marathon and not the half marathons? It has
yeah.
to be for everyone.
Yeah, it has to be. But again, like I ran half marathon, and then a day before, like when I was supposed to run, Rafael came and was like, "Hey, do you wanna have a beer?" I was like, "Hey, man, tomorrow morning I have to wake up at 5." Then he was like, "Abril is here. Let's go. Let's get some beer." Then I drank with Abril and Rafael till like 1 in the morning. Then I was so scared of like not waking up.
Because it was a 5 or the half
Yeah,
marathon, right?
yeah, yeah. So, but I think I did woke up and I still ran. I think I did okay, that was my first marathon. And in the process, more than that, I sort of like realized, speaking about Kuala Lumpur Marathon, it brings a lot of people together. It was very suffocating environment because the way it was structured. But besides that, I think the idea of people running is really good. But once you get into it, then you sort of like do it, and it becomes sort of like hobby for lifelong. Another person, speaking of inspiration, is very old guy. I've noticed him running around our campus. He looks like very old, not to do. He's probably not doing well the way he is like dressed and stuff like that. But he has certain values that defines him, that defines who he is, and then he sticks to those. I mean, habits, right? You get into habit patterns that you sort of like repeat after and after and after. That sort of like I look for these things in people and try and learn from them like on a very genuine basis. So that's what I am.
That's fantastic, especially not only to appreciate that, but also to embrace them on your everyday
Yeah,
and working towards an objective that
yeah.
can be either to finish something that can be too complex to do, or either like the next promotion. Those are very good
Yeah.
things to implement.
No, or even to like sort of like help people out, like I remember the day you finished marathon, I think you had to take a flight that day, and I think I saw you. I think you went with Sean, you or some people to airport,
And
right?
Kevin, yes.
Yeah, and Kevin, right? So that sort of like you find, and I don't think you were expecting that they'll be here, but when you become part of like family, like the ASP family that we are, so I realized certain thing in that moment also. Life will find ways to help you. Unexpectedly, people will come, and that's how my life has been as well. That people will come, and so again, I think life is also about like just doing what you are doing and doing and doing. So unexpectedly, also you got help. You ran your marathon. You took a flight. Then you went to Thailand on the same day.
Yeah.
Many people can't like. I ran and I came and I slept because I could not walk. My feet were so
Because
sore.
Rafa made you drink some stuff, right?
Yeah,
You can say that to him.
yeah. Yeah. So we had beer with Rafael. Yeah. But he has been an amazing friend as well. That's like a nice. I mean, right now we are about to graduate, right? So the friendship that I've developed here are like probably going to be lifelong bonds. That's how I'm looking at it, and try and learn from people. There are multiple perspectives, very different personalities. I think if you develop sort of like tolerance for these things within yourself, you learn patience and you learn to appreciate different values, and then I think the whole your vision and you would also transform in that process when you give respect to people, see who they are, try and understand even if you don't agree or like it, you might feel agitated, but you once you go through that sort of agitation, you would find yourself that you have transformed. So I think that's where the ASP value or the culture of collaboration lies.
Talking about life, you mentioned that you grew up in India, and I would like you to take the audience and also myself back in those early days.
Oh
How
yeah.
was growing up in India?
Oh, growing up, so I grew up in Patna, right? Patna, Bihar. So one of the numbers, right? One of the criteria is the GDP per capita of Bihar. If it were a country, it would be the third poorest country in the world. So I come from, speaking right now, very backward state of like India, but that state also has a very strong and rich cultural heritage. Lord Buddha come from my state, and there are many other great things. So, and Patna is also like sort of capital of India, like 1,000 years ago, for 2-3,000 years. So that sort of like very rich cultural history is there. People, but I think need to look beyond what the history is. So it was growing up was like I was in a convent school. It was really good, but when I was going to school, people of my age were getting abducted. People like kids would like someone would just kidnap them for ransom and money and stuff like that. So it was very, I mean, scary environment. There were a lot of crime when I was growing up. That sort of like has subsided. So my dad was a contractor, right? So I told him like I also wanted to be a contractor because it's like you have to be either a rowdy person or like a strong, politically strong, connected person to survive. So I was like, I want to be a contractor when I was growing up. My dad was like, no, this is not for you. You might get killed. He would tell me stories of how in front of him people would come and just kill you because you filed a tender to make some roads, right? So I knew my state where I come from had like no future. If you want to be like good person, the only way to fight poverty is through education, or you become a criminal. So there are two sorts of people in Bihar, either very studious people or like sort of like really criminals.
Yeah, that's true. Especially, this is a good lesson for the people, young people, because sometimes they will take the easy life, the shiny life, and that's
Yeah.
short-lived.
Yeah. So you basically have to struggle, right? So speaking of that, so after graduation, my dad sent my sisters to Bangalore to study and work. So my sisters also are engineers. They went to Bangalore because Bangalore was sort of like there was an urban migration happening from rural parts of India to 5, 6 different cities in India. Basically, that's how government policies were determined that people would probably migrate to places like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai. So I think what it has done is right now the problem is you go to these cities, right? The big cities from other different. India is big country. You go to these big 5, 6 cities, and a lot of people are like coming in. Those even like Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai were also not built for to handle this kind of population. It's like sort of like population explosion that's happening even in these cities, Mumbai, and they have each has different problems. And then I was like sort of in undergrad school. I sort of like was like I was coming from very small place from India, so it was again like a big thing for me to even be in Bangalore. So I saw rich kids, like people even in India. Some people have money, so I saw rich kids. I saw like all sorts of kids, but then I realized that growing up, I realized values like personal values, the character that you have as a person also can help you differentiate yourself, can help you achieve success. So, another person I came in contact with was Salman O Sayed. He is basically founder of Bangalore Open Air. So, I would love to spend time with him. So, that guy was also struggling. We would earn about $2, $3 per day. He would play music for like hours and hours, like 3, 4 hours. We would, from $3, we would earn basically to like $10 and stuff like that. So it was like full of struggle, but that was like a good struggle because I realized life as a musician can also be about making people happy, like really. And if you're like totally passionate about it, which I think he is, or which even I was, he right now is running the Bangalore Open Air. It's India's biggest open air metal festival.
Oh,
So yeah, so he did like so, and he dropped out of like 12th grade. So I met like so many people. In school, in undergrad, I also met like pretty talented people from all walks of life. Rich kid, like people, yeah, rich and poor and everyone. Like, but the culture that was is basically not diverse at all. Everyone was sort of Indian, same culture, same upbringing. So there's a very little to learn from the other person because you are in the same situation, you have the same upbringing, and you probably think the same way. So what you do is you try and compete with the other person rather than learning from them. So that's how the idea of competition, the way I look at it, in countries like China and India, or where the harmony is the central pillar of democracy. Like China, for example, has like a lot of homogeneous people who are like totally same even in India, or say in South Korea or Japan. But in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, for example, has a diverse set of people, right? So you can learn from them. So I think in places like Malaysia, culture is laid back. That's what I've realized because probably because when it's not homogeneous, people are not looking to compete with each other. They are looking to embrace diversity. That's how people are sort of like different, and then it is much richer and nicer thing. No, I think that's what it is like good if you can have multiple perspectives in a room. People like will spend time to understand you. If I understand you from the word get go, then probably I would be looking to like just compete with you and like I would think I'm probably smarter than you and stuff like that, which is probably not the case. The smart person is someone who thinks he is fool, so that he looks for opportunities to learn.
And during your time doing your undergrad, you mentioned something that people are right now also learning a little more.
Yeah.
That you got ventures in music.
Oh yeah.
DJ Bhaskar.
Yeah.
Who is that person?
DJ Bhaskar was like someone. So my life was like I would wake up, go to school, my undergrad from 8 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon. That was in west part of Bangalore. Then I would travel like 30-40 miles and come to. There was a pub called Purple Haze. It was basically named after Jimi Hendrix song. It was one of the oldest rock pubs in Bangalore. So I would go there, play in Marathali, Koramangala Cafe, and then I started playing with rock music. I would play like music sets of 4 hours, 3 hours every day, like 4 days a week. That's how I started, and then I got into classic rock. I would play like some sort of classic rock from 7 to 8 o'clock. By at 8 to 8:30, I would play some grunge and then probably some Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard and stuff like that. By 9 o'clock, I would come to new age metal and stuff like Linkin Park, Audio Slave, Birds of the Fall. By 9:30, I think I would move to Maiden and Metallica, like Judas Priest, you know. And by 10 o'clock, I would play some again classic rock like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. And then depending on how the crowd is responding, at 10:30, 10 o'clock, I'll go either like really heavy or like really slow. And by 11 o'clock, I would wrap it up.
So during that time when you're doing your mixtures, you mentioned that it's a function of the crowd as well. When was the, or how did you manage the toughest crowd you ever faced?
Oh yeah. You know, the toughest crowd and one of the most rewarding crowd was, I realized one day I was just playing music. It was, I think, Saturday afternoon, and the pub was mostly empty. I would speak about this one experience because there was one person, he was drinking, and I thought, okay, fine, I just have a crowd of one person. That can be tough because you basically are playing for no one, right? But if you play it well and you play it for yourself, then those moments you try and improve who you really are as a DJ, right? If you play for an audience of 1 or 2 people, then you would like just play your mind, which I did. And then at end of the set, he came and he was, I think, crying. He told me, I think his mom had passed away and he just came for a drink, right? And he told me like really nice and amazing things. So I felt like really good. And that was tough also because I was not expecting that people will come and tell you nice things and like easy things. Partly also because when people are drunk, you tend to discount what they say. You can't like. I mean, you won't go far if you like believe everything that people are telling you on the when they are drunk. So I was like discounted that. The other funny thing was the first day. The first day when I was playing music, my hands were shaking like really when I was like in the console, right? And so one person came, he's like, play my song, play my request. I'm like, screw you, I'm not going to play this. Someone I'm standing with another DJ is asking me to play another song. So he was like abusing me left, right, center. He was drunk, some drunk guy. So he was like basically thrashing me. I was like, okay, fine. So, and that sort of also was tough. But then I realized I have to be sometimes thick skin. So yeah, I mean, I learned to be bad also. I learned to be good as well.
Now, I remember you shared that business card from the past in one of the recent parties, and it caught my attention that there was a shield of a particular team,
Oh, yeah.
Manchester United.
Yeah.
So I would like you to enlighten in this topic.
Sure.
Why bars will put the shield of a particular team?
Yeah, so the story goes like this. There's this Singapore-based billionaire, Peter Lim. He's based out of Singapore. I think he's the top 10 richest guys in Singapore. So he took franchise. He owns Valencia Football Club. He took franchisee from Manchester United to launch restaurants across Southeast Asia and Asia. And so they spoke with, there's another businessman in India, Kuntal Amin. He's also, I think, big businessman. So he started this business, like restaurant business. That was a franchisee that Manchester United gave to Peter Lim, and Peter Lim and Kuntal Amin started Manchester United restaurant. It was Manchester United, basically the biggest restaurant in India. That place was about 20,000 square feet, and I was a resident DJ there for about 2 years. And back then Sir Alex Ferguson resigned, right? So I'm not sure if yeah, I think so. We had to pay like $1 million to run the place as a franchisee fee. So Kuntal Amini was like, no, we are not going to do this. So they closed the restaurant, and then I was also jobless then. So I joined Altisource, and I used to dabble a little bit here and there in stadiums, in like football matches. I would go and play in Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in Delhi or Kantirwar Stadium in Bangalore. So I think from crowd of like one or two people, I've also played for like crowd of 40,000, 50,000 people. So yeah.
So from 1 to 2 people towards 40,000 people, is the reaction homogeneous or is it heterogeneous at times?
Basically, reaction is good. Reaction is good, but as an artist, I don't like really care about, because it's sort of like is homogeneous. It's very homogeneous. Once I stopped playing for years, like for 2-3 years, I had to learn to deal with people not cheering for me, because I had played for like 8-9 years, right? And every day I would go, I would enter a place, people would like give me half an hour, and everyone will be jumping and dancing, and they'll be screaming and shouting, right? So DJs get used to it, and once they stop playing, it's sort of like, it haunted me that I wanted that, I craved that sound and applause, right? But I think the learning is you have to let go certain things. The crowd and applause was also because crowd was there. It was not because I was there. I would think that no, everything is for me, but no, I think the owners provided the place. I was there. Crowd came, they enjoyed. So my idea, what I realized totally, even after 10 years, I like to make people happy, but it is really difficult to make everyone happy. And so you have to learn to, even in life, you have to learn to let go of certain things, take a stand. Like for example, one day I was playing Miss India game. Some girl came. I did not know who she was until I was told she was Miss India. When she asked me for a song, I was playing house music. She asked me for a hip hop song. I was playing like really good house set. I said, no, I can't play this. And later, no one complained, but my owner was jokingly telling me that she was Miss India. You said no to her. Like, I won't know because I value what I do. I won't change my set for anyone. And so, these kind of things on a daily basis, on a small scale as well, gave me a belief that what I am doing is an art. And as an artist, I need to preserve what I'm doing and add value at a very deeper level, right? So yeah, that's how it was. I mean, as a DJ also, life was good, but as an artist, you realize art is bigger than you. Art is always bigger than artist. So I know it's been a while that I've played, but I learned a lot about myself, about the people. The another incident that I saw and sort of like it hit me was in Manchester United again. I was playing music on a Monday evening. There was a group of people. I think they were drunk. They were there when I came at that place at 7 p.m. They were there till like 11 p.m. So they were like fairly drunk. When I came out, I close the music set, I come out, I see the same set of people are like standing outside the club, right? Then suddenly I see this guy took a girl's hand, head, I mean, he held her head like this and he started banging it on the wall. That sort of like, I mean, I saw he's hitting this girl, right? So I went and pushed this guy. There were other 3, 4 people who were trying to come to like even hit me, but they were bouncers around me. Nothing happened to me. That guy fell on the street. His friends who were trying to hit me, before their hand would like even come near me, my bouncers protected me and protected that girl. Then this incident is really important to me because I realized I'm doing something which is probably fundamentally wrong. It is not good for like people are acting weird. I know it's not my mistake or it's, I mean, just a DJ. If you get drunk, you do stupid things. It's not probably my mistake, but I thought, no, I need to do some wholesome things. This is not wholesome. This is not like, I mean, I won't want that. So I was sort of like alienating from the idea of playing music. That was one very key pivotal moment in my life where I decided, no, this is not, I mean, I can't say it. I don't want people to act the way they are acting after like listening to music, right? So I sort of like started looking for a job, like a sort of engineering job and stuff like that. So after 6 months, I think they closed the restaurant, but that was one of the moments where it like really hurt me to see that.
Yeah, it's also a very telling story because how we can go from a place that used to pay $1 million fee to operate to then all of a sudden close businesses.
Yeah.
It tells a lot about how they were run to begin with.
Oh yeah.
Because,
Kirtan Amin is a very dear friend of mine. He was my age basically, 22, 23. He did his undergrad in Penn, in the States, University of, I think, Pennsylvania. And then came here. He took over his dad's business and was also probably running this restaurant. And I think in 1 year, he drank for like, what, $40,000 worth of alcohol. He and his friends. So I think the place was not managed well. And also, I mean, I wouldn't say they all are my friends, but I think they could have done better. I think they closed still with profit, but Manchester United also was looking to extract money just because Alex Ferguson had left and they were looking to use like $1 million just to like put your name on the board. The building was these owners. So I think, I mean, in the hindsight, I would say it was a good sort of experience, and it was also like a master plan of Peter Lim, right? So Peter Lim also is like a pretty amazing guy. I met him in Bangalore. So I think these guys are doing great, but just that we were doing business of what, 2 to 3 lakh rupees on weekends, every weekend, and total business was I think $40,000-50,000 per month, and they were making, I think, yeah. So if I do the calculation, 3 lakh rupees, if you do it like 30 lakh rupees for 10 weekends, yeah, and 20, roughly like 50 lakh rupees. 50 lakh is about uh, 70, $80,000
Now,
per month.
given those moments that you remember during your undergrad, once you received your bachelor's degree, how was the first job?
Oh, my first job was this dream job of Manchester United itself, because I used to like basically live next to this restaurant and I saw Manchester United logo. I was a football fan as well. I've been following that club for ever since I know I'm football. So I was like, oh my god, I'm a DJ. They are opening a restaurant. Can I get to work here? Which I basically did. So I realized dreams can come true, and they did at a very young age. I was like very totally fortunate to have an opportunity to even play there, because it was sort of like a as a DJ, it felt good. I was making a lot of money. I was getting booze on the house, food, free alcohol, uh, like lot of money for that job. Probably 3 or 4 times more than some of my friends who had graduated and were working like back then as an engineer. But I think I was not looking at money. I was just looking to make a good career out of it, or just to have fun, like just to have fun, which I did, and I think it was like nice experience.
And after that venture, you went to join a firm.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Oh, Alti Source was really great. So the funny thing is, the day I had my interview, I was like drunk and I was like super drunk, and next day I had interview. And so my dad was like, he is a central pillar of my life as well in terms of providing strength and mentorship. So he took me to this interview place. I had to talk about software licenses, like end user license agreements and stuff like that. My first job was to manage software assets for Altiso, Sockwin, and the company MCI. These are all like sort of related firms. So they asked me what is perpetual license. I was like, what is perpetual license? I don't know. Okay. So in an interview, I told them, I was being honest. I don't know what is perpetual license. The one license that I know is bar license, driving license, liquor license. I don't know what is software license. Okay. So they were like, okay, go, come next week, study a little bit and come. So next week they called me again, and I went, and then I think I spoke about Microsoft volume licensing, Adobe's Progress, database licenses. So I spoke a great deal about like software licenses in general, commercial and freewares both. And so yeah, I think they liked me and they gave me that job. I think yeah, that was amazing, because then it also exposed me to a lot of people in that firm, because everyone needs software, right? And I was a guy who would process the request, approve it, review it with legal people. So I met some like amazing people. Sean is one of the guy early mentors. He was from, I think, Columbia University. He graduated. He's a consul. So I worked with him to understand why commercial companies should not have or can't have like freewares when they are developing software products, because if you use freewares, then basically the entire product becomes free, right? You have to publish it. So there are very nuances of software licenses. And then I got in touch with under David Roy, and he was working on renewing the negotiations for Progress database licenses that we had. So, and then my job sort of exposed me to a lot of like key people in my organization. And after that, I spoke with Dave, and I wanted to join his department in like financial planning and analysis. And then he gave me an opportunity. He brought me on board, put me in touch with another person called Rahul Jaiswal. And so I worked with these guys for like 5 years, and then Dave left, then Rahul left, then I knew that I would also leave pretty soon, then I also left. Yeah. So I mean, I know that working is like working in this department or that department is one thing, but finding right people and sticking with them will sort of like be more fulfilling. So even after MBA, I'm also looking mostly for this one thing, if I can learn from this person or not. If I find I can, then probably I will stay and work. Otherwise, mostly it won't be fun. Because I mean, there's no other job apart from DJing that that can be fun, right? So what else do you want me to work on the strategy? I will have to go through a lot of struggle. It'll be stressful. I love to do it. I love to solve problems, but it won't be as fun as playing music for like living, right?
And you mentioned something about finding the right people, because when people are working for jobs, either they experience growth or comfort,
Yeah,
and you realize that those two things sometimes are not on the same place. Either if you have a comfort, you don't have a lot of growth, or if you
yeah,
have a lot of growth, you don't have so much comfort.
yeah.
And it's like you always try to see how much you can get, especially working with people, because the talent can be very hard to acquire from time to time. By the way, you mentioned that once you see all your senior people going out, you felt that it was also your time to go out.
Yeah.
What else did tell you? What else did you felt it's time to move
So
on?
about Alti, so this is in public domain, right? There's a person called Leon Cooperman. He is one of the billionaires in US. On a conference call, he uh, with my firm, he is basically I think invested in Altisource. So he asked Altisource CEO, "Is your balls bigger than your brain, or is your brain bigger than your balls?" So I think Leon Cooperman on a conference call is asking CEO. So I was like, "That's funny, but that's hilarious." And I think Bill Chipro, he managed the question well. But besides that, I think he could have done a lot more about the firm because there were allegations. I am not saying anything. Again, in public domain, that Altisource sort of like foreclosed houses early and sort of put like 20,000, 25,000 people on street and backdated certain letters and basically in the US market they put like 20,000 families on the street, right? So that was the sort of allegation. These are on the business uh, perspective. The investors were probably not confident. Management was not confident. There was a lot of restructuring. One of the papers that I wrote about Altisource is, Black Knight Fidelity. Black Knight is one of the biggest loan servicing platform in the world. They service 60-70% of the mortgage loans. Altisource also, the main product was loan servicing platform, and they would service like 5, 10, 15% of the mortgage market. I don't know that number, but I know Black Knight was a global leader. So Black Knight, in my study, I found out spent 18 months to revamp the entire software. Within 18 months, a software that is servicing 60% of US mortgage market was revamped. In Altisource, they generated like they went and back. They tried to replicate it. I think they even got some people from Black Knight to come and like do the same thing. It's sort of like they launched products. I think in one day they hired like 500 engineers. After 2-3 months, they fired all of them.
Oh,
Yeah, so I've seen that company grow from like 3,000 to 8-9,000 employees, then back to 3,000 again. So I've seen a lot of like, Acme and Altis like decently big companies in US, in the area that they deal in. I would say I was like, after seeing all of this, I thought Altisource is basically going nowhere. And there was like, I mein, in the sense, even when COVID happened, right, there was a lot of like companies were bleeding in terms of like cash reserve, right? So there was another set of like firing. I was like, fine. And the people who I was like working with, they had left. So I was like ready to leave. And so that's where and I was, and I had also spent about 8-9 years already in that firm. So I was like, fine. And again, speaking of doing wholesome things, these are the foreclosure thing sort of like demotivated me because I really want to do work in place where it adds value to society. Altisource is one such company which makes money if economy is in recession because they get money when they foreclose houses and then they sell those houses. So when economy is in recession, certain companies will do well. Certain companies which operate in recession will do well as well. I mean, will yeah, of course. So I think I would want to work in a company which is uh, probably not on foreclosure side, probably on origination side. I would love to like make money if you are buying a house. I would not love to make money when I'm like making you vacate your house. So basically, yeah.
It's a good insight that you're mentioning because how many people right now that are affected by the liquidation of Credit Suisse have that skill to actually find alpha,
Yeah.
but they will compromise to get a job in these kind of businesses just because they need to pay the rent. That's quite an statement, to be honest, because the talent is there. And also the opportunity to bring a better society or even a more ethical way of doing business.
Yeah, yeah. And so short-sightedness, which I mean, in doing business, conducting business, I mean, look, I understand you need to have like good people, bad people, good things. There's nothing good or bad. You have to do what you have to do in society, right? Some people have to foreclose, some people have to do certain things. Personally, I would stick with doing wholesome things which productively add value. Speaking of creators and things like these, they are cyclical in nature. The way I look at this, creators has been, if you look at the share price, has been going down for past 3-4 years. I think so. I don't know. I mean, I'm no one to speak on that because we have interviewed people like Batu and everyone, and we've had like those are the people who would have like much better insight on credit source in general. And I think right now what I'm working on is also like at YCP Solidiance. So I think the sort of like investment reports that I'm reading, they all are pointing towards a grim economic outcome. Not only this year, somewhere like next year, first quarter, second quarter also will be under recession. I think the reports that I'm reading are telling me that economy will start improving from third quarter, fourth quarter of next year. So I don't know who all will go under, but as an MBA graduates coming out in this job market, it sort of like worries me. But again, like speaking of what we can do is learn, reskill ourselves, try and like I totally believe we will still find jobs if we are good enough because there is always a job. I fundamentally believe that if job is what we want, if you want to create value, if you want to be an entrepreneur, start a company, then again you can create your value. So on a personal level, business cycles may matter, may not matter. Uh, you just have to be talented enough, probably a little bit more competitive in terms of like what you can do or cannot do. But then again, don't compromise on the values.
You mentioned through this journey that there was a decision to take the GMAT,
Yeah.
and that is for business schools.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you, when was the moment that you felt it's time to get business skills from a business school?
Oh, so when I was working in Altisource and Dave's organization, David Roy and Raul Jaiswal, so everyone was on my team were from IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Lucknow. There were 3 people in my team. They were amazing people, and I really liked how their education had given them like the ideas and perspective. I would have like I spent like a lot of time talking to them, right? So in MBA, I understood one thing. I will definitely get is I'll become more polished, and my thinking will definitely improve. I'll acquire a set of like structured thinking about business problems, not only like from my perspective. So back in 2014-15 as I I knew that I would probably want to do an MBA because I mean I had already taken up CFA level 1 exam, so there was like MBA is a good way to go, and I was ambitious ever since I know because again speaking of where I come from, Patna, right? So I couldn't be here if I was not ambitious.
So from that place in India, what made you say it's time to go east, Southeast Asia?
Oh, here. So I got to know about the school through a friend. MIT Sloan had come for an information session. I think in back in 2015-16. around. So a friend of mine, Abhishek, learned about this school when he was looking for making applications. So he told me about this school. This is supposedly MIT's new school in Malaysia, which I think it is. Everything about ASB is amazing, right? So I was like, let's apply there, right? And there was no application fee to apply. Please apply to ASB. There's still, I think, no application fee. Everyone should apply, right? So I had an interview with Juliana, and I think I remember on 12th of March they admitted me, or like in first week of March, I got my letter. So I was like really excited and happy about coming to the school, and it was my also first time coming out of India, so I was like more excited.
That's good, because people usually wants to see where they can get the next chance or the next opportunity to get more skills, and when you get the word of mouth of a friend that says
Yeah,
you should try this place,
yeah,
encourage you a lot to actually go there.
yeah,
And this building itself, I would say, is only the tip of the iceberg, or
yeah.
that encompasses more, because it was also the action learning and the opportunity to go to other
Oh yeah,
places. Which place you went? You went to
Hanoi.
Indonesia? Hanoi.
Hanoi, Vietnam. I went to Hanoi. So one thing about the MBA, our MBA program definitely is the amount of exposure that I've received, and it has subconsciously transformed me. The travel that we have had, I've been to, I know, US, Boston, Cambridge. We've taken classes there. Not only Hanoi, I'll come to it. Then I did my internship in Sweden, then came here, then we went to Dubai, Hanoi. We have traveled also in different parts of the world. So through this travel, I've like without even trying. I mean, I love walking, right? I've been walking all my life. Every day I would walk,
Yeah.
but I lost like 20% of my body weight in the MBA program, and without even realizing it. It was mostly also because I saw people who were fit, and that sort of like inspired me in Europe and US, and even here. Malaysia is an amazing running culture. So subconsciously, I thought if I want to be a leader, I must learn to lead myself into a better life and be a better human being, right? That starts with taking care of my body, that starts with taking care of my mental health and the eating right. It's not like, I mean, do the right thing, and the travel again exposes you to multiple cultures, which is very, very important. Uh, Even if I go back to India or the place where I come from, it will still like enrich me, and it'll the travel to Vietnam, for example, right? Vietnam is amazing place. I mean, very warm people, totally warm. Uh, right now, these travels and action learning projects introduce us, give us a lot of confidence to basically take any business problem, analyze it, solve it within 2 3 months, and give it back. It's sort of like action learning is sort of like it exposes you to a consulting lifestyle, and we had like 4 action learning, right? So I think in these 3 4 action learning projects, I got a lot of confidence to take any business problem, look at it in a group setting, understand and disagree with my team members, agree with my team members, go through that journey of like defining a problem at a very basic level, spending like a week or two just to narrow down the scope, focus on what is really important, develop a hypothesis, and then probably at end of the day, like once you go through the whole process, right, you deliver recommendation and presentations to clients, or to the faculties here, right, in the school. And so that exposes you to multiple different industries, try and understand problems that each has, and work with different team members. Mostly team members are from different backgrounds in one team. Then you you get challenged as well. Sometimes you agree with them, sometimes you don't, and in the process you learn from them. If you would like respect the person, you'll definitely learn from all. So action learning is the most important part of ASB MBA. Not only ASB MBA, a lot of schools are doing action learning these days. It is the vital part, if even if you want to be a general manager in a company, because it gives you confidence. You have already solved 3 4 different business problems.
Now, I want to bring this up because we mentioned Vietnam, and
Oh yeah, Hanoi.
you got a lot of experience, and of course the Indian culture.
Yeah.
And we have also other members in our cohort like Santosh or Najeza who are also watching this, who are also from India. So my question for you is, which are the legal differences between the Indian culture and the Vietnam culture?
So the thing about Indian culture is, you mentioned Santosh, right? And Najda is from Maharashtra, Santosh is from Hyderabad, and I am from Bihar, and I have also lived in Karnataka. So each state has its own culture, totally different culture in India. So India has this story like when we got independence, there were about 500 plus kings, each were like ruling in their own style. So Indian culture is Naizda's culture is different from my culture. My culture is different from Santosh's culture, right? Hanoi, Vietnam has a lot of like Buddhist influence, which I really, could associate with because Buddha came from my city, Patna, and to see that Buddhism, spread of Buddhism in Vietnam, was like a welcoming thing for me, and they were treating me like really well in Halong and Hanoi both. So I think even in Malaysia, when I see Buddhist people, I'm Hindu, but I also practice Buddhism in terms of not practice Buddhism. I go for Vipassana meditation, so I understand what Buddhism is, what Lord Buddha has said. So I I don't know. If religion can define a person, it can give a path, but I am okay with doing things or learning more about different religion also, and then basically deciding what I want to do.
I'm glad you bring this up because in times that people want to divide others based on faith, it's like it's not about religion but the actions.
Yeah,
Are your actions good for your common man and woman, for your common brother and sister? That actually defines you,
yeah,
and that's actually more empowering, not for you but also for everyone who is surrounding you. Yeah, it was very fascinating to see that even that when we see, oh, those look like people from India and Malaysia, they are very different from each other.
yeah, yeah. That's true. I think you spoke very nicely about culture and what's happening in the world, and the people who are like I know different cultures have different things, but more important is people have a lot of trouble. People are in pain. The one conversion that I would speak of and I associate with is in Satyanarayan Goenka's words. He's the sort of guy who like globalized Vipassana meditation. He spoke speaking at a United Nations forum. He told the world about conversion from not one religion to the other, not from Buddhism to Hinduism or Hinduism to Buddhism, or from Muslim or Christianity to Buddhism. He spoke about conversion from misery to happiness, conversion from pain to happiness, and finding yourself. So that sort of conversion is good, not conversion in the on the religious line, but just there are a lot of people, a lot of them are in deep trouble. You should be looking at converting them, not on the lines of religion, but just making their life happy, a little bit more happy, and then and that's where the value is. That's what living is, I think.
Mm-hmm. So that experience in Vietnam was one thing. Then we remember that you got also some experience going on the upper side of the world, right there in the Nordic
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah.
So how was
Sweden.
those cold temperatures then?
Oh yeah, Sweden was amazing. I would totally love Gothenburg and Stockholm. I lived in Gothenburg for about 2.5 months. Spent a week in Stockholm at a friend's place. I worked in Gothenburg. I, I was also there when it was Swedish summer, so I was enjoying it. It's like really good as a foreigner. For me, it was an amazing experience. But right now, I realize Swedish people have like long days, right? When it's summertime, sun would like rise at 3 a.m. in the morning and would probably set at like 11:30, 12 at night. So there was no basically night. So it took me a little bit. It was like really intense, and I would love to go for a walk. They have amazing parks and lakes in Gothenburg. I would go and walk around those parks and experience life. In Sweden, I noticed they focus a lot on innovation, and they try and do things. Even in terms of technology, they are people who are basically driven to innovate, and they operate at the level of like, not doing something the way. I mean, it's a very homogeneous society as well. Swedish people don't like to brag about things. You would really have to spend a lot of time to find out how accomplished and the person is. They will not brag. They will probably not mention how much they earn. They don't measure success in terms of money. I think everyone is like fairly okay in Sweden, but what they do is like in Europe, I noticed they become expert in one thing that they do, and they become like totally expert. And then if you invest so much of time doing one thing, like one thing all your life, then you would want to innovate and innovate. That's how I think Swedish society is advancing and has advanced. And I think, speaking of, like, I also learned about Viking culture, right? Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, they have this Viking thing. So I think they have been risk takers. They have been venturing out since last 1,000 years. The Vikings are not there yet, but I mean that speaks of how people from that part of the world are when they look at things. They would like take risks, go out, cross the English Channel, kill the Englishman, and spread the Viking thing.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's true. We can go back to the story about how King Sigurd the First decided to be one of the first methodic Sweden kings to actually not kill the British, but it's like, okay,
yeah,
we believe in the Christian faith, it's time. It's
yeah,
time to talk. And we can talk about a story and everything. The culture right there is always fascinating because there's been always a story that it was the Vikings who went to America first
yeah.
and then decided to go back for some reason.
Yeah, I think I know. My understanding is I may be wrong. The Swedish and basically Denmark and Danes, these people like sort of like went to UK, and from there they crossed the ocean. They reached Europe, and these European, and then they also Germany was I think called Germania. They moved towards like West and Southern Europe, and they sort of like were explorers. I don't know much about them, but the one thing that sort of like not fascinates me. I mean, I know it as a matter of fact. Is these guys were early risk takers, and the world has sort of like. I mean, there may be some misery also. Of course, they are, but we right now after 1,000 years, the way I look at it is those people who took risks. They came to Europe. They went to UK, then they dominated in UK. A lot of people in UK also share the Viking DNA and blood and everything. Those people in UK then traveled after 300, 400 years to places like my country, India, Malaysia, and sort of like colonized the world, right? And then uh, after colonizing, I mean, it's of course for a person like me, it's a bad thing that you come and like colonize the world, but that sort of like paved the way for the modern world to evolve over 1,000 year period. That's the way I look at it. So even from now, the society will find ways to reward people who take risks. If not now, probably in 100, 200, 500 years time. So, and that's how probably we will shape the world. Right now America is doing that sort of thing. China is rising. So given all these political tensions and migration that is probably going to happen because of the climate change in next 300, 400 years. I think this period is going to be very intense. I don't know what to say, just that we need to think of world as a one world, one people. It is easy for me to say or talk about global challenges, but people are also driven by local concerns in each countries. For example, in Malaysia, country is amazing, but there are certain privileges for a certain class of people which are probably not extended to the other class of people. So the social structures that are formed in countries also maybe a short-term issue, but I mean short-term for the society and for the society to deal with. But I think again, the society has goods and bad both, right? So I think yeah.
Hmm. It's important to reflect on that because time and technology is passing by, and then all of a sudden the human race will venture into new different planets. We are not going to be discussing where you're from or which is your nationality when we are in other planet. We will
Yeah.
always remember that we are from planet Earth.
Yeah,
And that will be maybe the best heritage we can give towards the future generations, if we have any future generations. That's a number two, because we have been experiencing in the last 30 years decay in the birth rate, and it's like
yeah,
we were supposed to have a lot of children in this extended time of peace.
yeah. So speaking of birth rate, I would like to. You are, I know, very like aware of system dynamics and things in that subject, and I think I share the similar interest. I am a student also of system dynamics. When we look at birth rate, right, there's a graph that it sort of is like a bell curve. If you rise very high in a very limited amount of time, you will also fall pretty quickly. That is the correction that is probably happening in China. Right now, this past year, India became the most populous country in the world. It will probably continue to be so for next 50 years, but then it will again, the population will start sort of like declining, and the country will go through a lot of stress on the system because there are so many people and so many things you have to like include in the society, right? So this sort of like explosion, whatever rises very very fast will also like fall very fast. If you look at the world in terms of like 1% growth rate for 200 years will give you at end of the 200 years more return than say 5% growth rate for like a 5 year, 10 year, 20 year period. So that's sort of like, I mean, I just think of this graph about like 1% growth rate sustainably for a country. What 100, 200 years is a good way to go about things.
Hmm. The power of the compound interest.
Yeah,
It reflects not only in what we saw in finance, but also, let's say, population, wealth.
yeah,
It will be so easy to have peace and harmony, but sometimes people want to go the easy way.
yeah,
Going back to your time in Sweden,
yeah.
you saw a lot of people running in the night.
Oh, yeah.
How that motivated you?
Oh, that's amazing. They have this in Stockholm. They had this midnight run. Okay, so the entire city was sort of like running. It was a midnight run. So basically, it was I think 10 kilometers or 20-kilometer run. I did not run, so I don't know how long it was. But I was like roaming around, walking, and basically drinking in pubs in Stockholm, like enjoying my life or my stay in Stockholm. So I saw this midnight run. I also saw Boston Marathon. The one thing that inspired me from these two marathons was when I saw people running with the cart and pushing their kids or their wives or running with someone, like physically not only running but also like carrying someone with them. That sort of like inspired me a lot because it says those people are taking care of not only themselves but also they are bringing the family members, they are pushing them physically over the entire marathon distance, right? That sort of like shook me. Yeah, like I can't even take care of myself. There are people who are doing it not only for themselves but for their loved ones. So Bhaskar, something has to change, right? You must learn to take responsibility. This is a better thing to do. So what I did was, I did nothing. I was totally from my heart. I was clapping for them. The day on Boston Marathon, I did no running. I was clapping, and I clapped and clapped and clapped for like hours. In Stockholm also, I did no running. I clapped and clapped and clapped. So those two things were very positive things that I did for other people. When I could clap and appreciate things in other people, then that's when I came to Kuala Lumpur and registered for Kuala Lumpur Marathon, because I was like, if I can clap for them, then I need to also clap for myself. That's how. I mean, my journey started in for the Kuala Lumpur Marathon, and thanks to you and your dedication of waking up at the same time and going through that running phase, it was very inspiring for me, and it was very easy also because I had different set of people like Shivangi, Gina, Gawker,
CK,
yeah, CK,
Michelle.
Michelle. These so these guys were walking, so we have like a walkers club, right? So all I had to do was wake up and walk with them, and then that's how I did it. I could in Gothenburg, in Stockholm last June, I could not run. I would walk and walk like for 5-10 miles, but I did no running. This friend of mine would ask me go run. I was like, I can't run. Like, this is crazy. So I started running at 6 kilometer per hour speed, whatever I could. I just did that. Then I would run for like 1 hour, 2 hour, and 6 kilometers. It's a walking pace, but I would run. That's how I started it. Yesterday, I think I was running at 10 kilometers per hour. It's not like a good run, but it's a decent jog. So, what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter how you start, where you start, what is your pace. All you have to do is just start. Even if you can't run, all you have to do is just walk. So over a period of time, it will come to you. Your feet will start running. You will not even know like how, So even for not only marathon, it's for anything in life. All you have to do is appreciate other people who are successful at things that you want. Appreciate them from all your heart. Don't be jealous that you don't have it or they are way ahead. And just appreciate them. The good in you will make you do those things yourself, and that's how you will succeed. And succeeding is not the motivation. The motivation is that you should do things that you enjoy. That's what succeeding and living is. If you do things like I'm 31st or 32nd person, you're recording this interview with, right? So if you go through this process of interviewing 32 people, you would become better at certain things. Tell me about it. How has your experience been? And what have you learned?
Doing podcasting has been okay, especially not for the sake of it, but to learn from other people's journeys, other people's experiences. That goes back to my time when I was a petroleum engineer and always documenting and finding new things and publishing. It was always a lot of red tape, not from the Society of Petroleum Engineers, but let's say internal politics. So when I realized that it was easier for me to talk with someone, learn their journey from a different background, and see how can I learn and implement that, hey, that's something good. That was number one. Number two, on the magic of long conversations, I realized that there is always wisdom that happens when there is no structured interview, when there is no hidden agenda, when it's only people talking. And then we realize, look at that, wisdom and knowledge is there.
Yeah.
Just talk. And also developing the skill of listening more than speaking, because at the beginning can be a little difficult that you want only to speak and you don't even hear what the other person says. As time passes by and people can see on the channel from the first episodes or even the pre-recorded episodes to these ones, it's like and a skill that takes time and also practice. Also, on the counter side, I have to say, conversion rate is a huge deal because when you hear that somebody is asking you to join a podcast, sometimes they don't know what is that. Sometimes they don't know how to do it, and even they ask me from innocence, which is the agenda or which are the questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just give a very wide guidance, so they just go there. I need to repeat this quote from River Phoenix, who wrote back in the 90s that one of his songs that he said, "Go to the rescue with love and peace will follow."
Yeah.
So it's like when you want to send that agenda, send it with love and peace will follow. That's how you see how the conversation happens. I have to say that the experience has been good, and I wish I can continue more often.
Yeah.
I realized that in certain regions they are more prone to do a podcast than in others, and I have to respect that. And also number three, I have to give them the free choice that if you want to join, okay, but I cannot beg. That's
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah.
We can talk about people that I asked more than once,
Yeah.
and they want to play the time card, and it's like, well, we know. And I also pay respect to people who literally say no on my face because they are honest with me.
Yeah.
And that's even the most important thing that you find in the long term conversations, the long open conversations. You see the degree of honesty
Yeah.
getting higher and higher at the later parts of the conversation. Like all of a sudden they start saying things that you wanted to learn, but it was not on your mind or it was never thinking about it. Some episodes like the one that we are releasing with Hadija,
Yeah.
beautiful episode,
Yeah.
has so many gems. Or what about the one with I have to reflect with this other episode, the one with Eden,
Yeah.
that I didn't know that she actually struggled financially during her time
Yeah.
studying, but
Yeah.
she overcome that. So those little things, like how to face adversity and become a better person, or even struggle with loss from relatives, like Hadija almost had,
Yeah.
gives you a lot of lessons. So that's something that we can wish to continue. And number four, because you may say, well, those are very nice things, but are you making money? Or I would say that the podcast as an venture is cash positive.
Yeah.
That means I'm not burning money.
Okay.
That's very important
Yeah.
because you can see other channels that they put a lot of money and it's like the episode feels nice, but
Yeah.
are they burning more money than they make? So that's the thing. So I encourage to do this because it's also kind of fun. It helps you develop other skills as well, and can come very handy from time to time.
Okay. I think makes sense. So, what is your take on? I mean, I know you are net positive, but have you analyzed it from, say, Bill Ollitt's 24 Steps of Disciplined Entrepreneurship? Because this is also a venture, sort of like innovation. And there's this theory of diffusion, the book that I'm reading recently, Professor Asadeta gave me. And so, diffusion is about communication, and it's a term that was basically coined like 70, 75 years ago, and it's basically a story of how certain things go viral, basically from communicating or from the words of mouth, and how innovation spreads, right? It's a basically theory or a standard of how innovation spreads. For example, ChatGPT took like 5 days to reach a million. Facebook took X number of days to reach that million number or things like that. So that cycle is reducing. So given these changing and accelerating business dynamics, you don't know, like, I mean, a sort of innovation is needed. So when you look at, I would think of your podcast as sort of like a innovation, because you draw out people, you try and learn from them, and you present it to the world to consume, right? So, and that sort of innovation, I mean, in communication, will probably spread. Even if it does not spread or spread, it is immortal, because what we are doing, we can 10 years from now we can go back to this moment and we can relive this moment. So this is a tangible product that will probably stay. 10 years from now I might think I am sounding so stupid, but it's something that's tangible, right? So there's a value in it. So I would like to learn from you and ask you, how do you see this medium of communication, your innovation spreading, and what can you like do or think about it as an MBA student?
I realized that there is a actual virus going on, and it's actually affecting. I say actually 3 times right now in less than 1 minute. Attention span. Humans used to read a lot of books, and then all of a sudden, with new mediums, began to decrease their attention span. And now that we have Instagram, the Reels, and TikTok, all of a sudden the attention span is reducing to 30 seconds or even 10 seconds. And it's something that can be very harmful. That will be one of the counter answers to the typical question why I'm using long open podcasts. Because when you pay attention, you make yourself more disciplined, like when you're reading a book. Of course, I'm not putting myself like a book. A book is always better. And then a movie from the book is always better. But the point is, trying to spread that kind of lesson, kind of discipline, can give some value. That will be number one. Number two, if I had money, I will start translating the episodes in English to other languages, because I know that this can be a little restrictive. And if something we can put as innovation is access of knowledge, because not so many people have the resources to study English or to practice English. They can find a way to practice language, but the ones who are still not there yet and they want access to the knowledge, they have a gap to come over. And at least to give a bridge, that will be something. That will be a part two. And part three, it will be also personal growth, but also industry growth, because media itself, business itself, change over time. Humans change over time. We are not the same from what we were 5 years ago. So chances are we are gonna look back at this and it's like, this was a reference, this was a picture, and this is how we are right now. Are we close to our ideals, or is this the state of the world that we expected back then? What happened? And what measures we can do to go to the ideal we have back then? So that can also help us. One of the main ideas of starting the podcast was to always do it on the lawn, like in a very open environment, to capture how was the society going around. It takes me back to episode 20 with Fan Roseanne that we did in front of the National Monument on a Sunday, 8 o'clock in the morning, and we saw a lot of people passing by. The episode we eating in front of the dome, a lot of people and dogs on the lawn right there. Or what about that other episodes that we do outdoors, just to capture that. And then I realized that technology is also a problem. So we have right now the privilege to be in a controlled environment, controlled temperature and controlled sound. And it's because we only have one microphone and a tripod, and that's it. For a better results, we should have like one microphone each of other and have a better camera with a better tripod and an umbrella in the case it rains. Because the episode 8 was recorded in Batu with Gaukar, and it was literally raining. We needed 3 people: Gaukar, Fabian, and Mariam, who was with the umbrella, just constraining the equipment will not go raw. And it was for 35 minutes. That's how powerful the nature is. So the only way to counter nature is technology. And at the same time, the only thing that can actually help you around is nature itself, because it gives you a reference of self-awareness. Like what we are doing right now, like when we go walk outside, we realize that, hey, this is nature. And it's like we have the privilege of having shelter that was available at technology to be away from predators, and also to have enough skills to overcome the dangers of nature. So that's how I see the podcast going on. if I manage to keep more people coming in, getting more topics, more lessons learned, people that by word of mouth wants to also say, yeah, this is a good product, this is good content, and also share some of the travels, because that's another thing that people have been seeing from what,
Yeah.
like, okay, uh, how is Bangkok, or how is Singapore? Oh, okay, that's how I like. I thought it would be different. So,
Yeah.
of course, that costs money. I would say those are the most expensive episodes if I wanted to do it per se. But those are just a side business.
Yeah.
So, going into a reflection into the near future, of course, I'm gonna release an episode about the Hong Kong trip. That is gonna happen, but it's not gonna be immediately. It's gonna take some time as well, because one thing is when they open, when a place opens, they always show the better face. It's like my first time in Kuala Lumpur, and I know that you need to explore more to see how the country is. Like the time that we went as a cohort to Batu, we
Yeah.
had to go in bus
Yeah.
almost across the whole country,
Yeah.
and then take the boat. And we realized that, okay, this is a part of the real infrastructure you see in the country. So those are things that you don't see on the webpage. And that will leads me towards a topic I would like to discuss with you, because we mentioned about your time in Vietnam and also your time in Sweden.
Yeah.
How was Batu Batu?
Batu was so many things on so many levels. It first of all happened once we all like joined MBA program, and some of us joined from the Zoom, and it was sort of like the first term of MBA program is I think the most difficult term. The second was like really good. So Batu was a good mental break for me, if I think of that. If I think that there's a problem in sea and ocean, and there's like real ocean debris and plastics around the world that are just floating in the ocean, and it's man's gift to the earth, the pollution and the plastic, right? So to see that, I can say, all right, it's there. It depends on individuals to whether care about this problem or not. Like cared about this problem. I think we made promises to ourselves. I did that I will try and be more sustainable, even not only on a personal scale. At a company where I work, I'll try and take more initiatives on sustainability, because global warming and sustainability are the two biggest problems that we face. On personal friendship level, I got to stay with like amazing set of people in a basically 5-star resort, basically South China Sea and island. It was a delight, and it's like a dream vacation. So, but all of the vacation, the problem, the hard work that we did to in order to clean the place as well, like physically carrying stuff and like physically cleaning that island, even from the 1 days of high tide, a lot of like debris can come, right? So we really slogged there as well. So and that is what life is. Life will reward you with good places. You'll still have to solve problems like cleaning up the island, and you still have to think about future, what will happen to the world if, you have to think about your actions. So that one project to me is basically like a summary of uh, uh, things that we have to do in life. That's the way I would look at Batu Batu. Yeah, if I'm like, then you can like even judge people. Not judge people, you can understand what their values are. I could say, amazing island, like nice 5-star place. I could also talk about problems. Even moving beyond from Batu Batu, that's what life is. Amazing campus, right? Everything. And we are in a basically temple of education. If I look at this institute in that way, then it's sort of temple that I must worship. So discipline also is required in order to like not only make myself better, but leave the place in a better way than I found it. So I was really proud of leaving Batu Batu better than the way I found it. and that's what I would want to do all my life.
Also, I remember that Batu has like a conservancy area
Yeah,
where they save the
hatchery.
turtles.
Yeah, I sort of like, yeah, and that was amazing to see the turtles, right? Yeah, it's an amazing thing. They are basically looking to preserve turtles. It's their world as well. It's not only our world just because we can think and think better. It doesn't mean turtles, this earth does not belong to them. It belongs to everyone, all the animals, plants, and humans. So we have to coexist. We have to empower animals, plants, and people who are struggling and preserve them, give them an opportunity and chance to swim again, to fly again, to walk again. Yeah,
Batu was beautiful, and you mentioned among temples like this building, and I cannot help but also remembering this other place that we as cohort went in Cambridge,
yeah.
MIT.
MIT, yeah.
What memories brings to you?
Oh, MIT was amazing, bro. I totally loved it. It's one of the finest institutions in the world. I was so happy, I think, and excited about being there. So before coming to MIT, my trip was I flew to LA and then stayed at my sister's place for like 10 15 days. So I also went to Stanford, I went to Buckley House and other schools on the West Coast before coming. So what I realized not only about MIT but the US schools in general is there's a lot of like life on campus there. Our campus is like very quiet and boring. In the sense, everyone does what they have to do. A lot of people stay in their room. I don't get to see a lot of people outside. We also our class size is small, so I think it's. But in that's not the case in US. At Stanford campus, what I saw, or even at MIT campus, I saw certain pillars and posters where students would put posters, right? So in Stanford, in one of the posters, it said "fuck Putin," prominently two words, "fuck Putin." There's a space for F word as well, and on that campus, and it is displayed like anyone can basically see it if you are that like it's at the center of Stanford. So, whatever Putin is doing, it's and of course it is bad, but uh, US universities give you an atmosphere where all the ideas are sort of welcomed and embraced. Even at MIT, one thing I'm really proud of is my class participation, even in this class and even in MIT. So amazing professors. Besides Boston and Athena, I think uh, we did like short term, like 4 weeks of classes in MIT, right? And we were touring and traveling. So, besides that, I found opportunities to meet so many people. The MIT is nothing but the community of people, and the people makes the MIT what it is. So, one the person I met with is from Ukraine. He was doing his PhD in chemical research or something like that, but he was from Ukraine. He was sort of like devastated, and then I spoke with him about what's happening in Ukraine and how he feels about it. And he is like in US, right? So he spoke about that, uh, about his experience. I sort of like met so many amazing people that I thought it's like really a privilege. Like Michael Kusmano, right? The dean I spoke with, he told me about the fact that being in MIT is still a privilege. He considered it a privilege. After spending like 40 years, he's a tenured faculty, he'll be there all his life, but he still considers it a privilege. So people are not taking things for granted, even though it is given for granted. Right? He's a tenured faculty. This is for life. Everyone knows it. But people, how are they able to maintain those such positions? Because they don't take things for granted, and they work hard for it. So people in MIT or in no matter where they are, if they are successful in life, they will definitely not be taking things for granted. They'll be working very hard. I mean, that's how you become like better at things, right? And then the second thing I noticed was people were very very humble in MIT. You could like basically talk to everyone, and they would be very humble. You might feel like, I mean, I used to feel like oh my God, this is MIT, I don't even belong here, right? That sort of a vibe, but that's not the case. All you have to do is believe in yourself. Just you can be at MIT. I could be at MIT. Anyone can be at MIT. You just have to believe in yourself. Do things that basically changing the world starts from changing you. If you can live and change life of one person, you have done world of service to change the world. If you just impact life of one person, that also means you have changed the world. So just start small, do things. And the other thing I noticed is uh, the contribution has to be in society has to be defined in a way that basically you also go through a journey, right, Fabian? That you have become like profoundly aware of certain things in life, and then you want to contribute, probably like onto say Massachusetts as a state, or say if someone who's standing at Kendall Square for that matter. Changing Massachusetts will also mean changing life of one person on a Kendall Square in front of MIT, right? So I think humility, to accept your failures, embrace them, and the action word again. I'll speak briefly about the action word on the walls of the Sloan building. It says to improve the world, right? So at Stanford, it says change the world. At MIT, it means basically MIT is an engineering school also. So you improve things. That's what I also believe in. You improve slowly and slowly and slowly. So that's why I think I sort of like resonate more with Sloan School of Business, for example, yeah, because you improving means you would have made some mistake. The biggest room in the house is the room of improvement, right? So if you can build that room, that is the biggest room in any house, the room of improvement. If you have that sort of attitude, I think that's helpful.
That's actually very magical and powerful message because how many times people complain that they don't have enough space, that they don't have enough rooms for a room of improvement.
Yeah,
That's the biggest room.
yeah,
That's place for everything.
yeah.
Talking about things that are improving, what are you building right now? What are you doing right now?
Oh, right now, so I'm basically looking to finish school, take a class, portfolio management probably by in May, and then right now I'm working with Professor Asadita as a research assistant. It's a basically Procter and Gamble run the Center of Excellence to support small holders. Holders means the farmers, like independent farmers in Malaysia who like do palm oil farming. So Procter and Gamble is one of the buyers of palm oil. They use a lot of palm oil in their consumer products. So in order to maintain that supply chain, they are looking to improve the lives of farmers who are independent, try and have them in a scheme. I am working with Professor Asaditra to write some papers, do some research, and learn more about palm oil and supply chain. So the other thing I'm doing is I'm also interning with the under firm YCP Solidiance as a management consultant. So basically, my work there is to uh, work on due diligence, like not loan origination, deal origination, like sort of like M&A transaction and deal if I'm looking to invest in a firm. So these days I have been speaking with a lot of like executives in Southeast Asia region, some in India, some in Taiwan, Japan, Malaysia. So talk to these owners, business owners, and try and like represent YCP Solidance and their investors, and originate certain like buyouts and investments in these like medium and small businesses. So yesterday, I probably can't take the name of the client, but I think I spoke with the CEO of like $100 million company in one of the countries in Southeast Asia. So my days are like really going here and there, working basically two jobs, working as an research assistant and as a consultant. So I'm after graduation, I would love to be in management consulting. So yeah, let's see.
This is fascinating. Why? Because Given that a lot of people want to enter either into the finance industry or the management consultant, how have you been seeing this experience
Oh,
of
this is
self-discovery?
this is like really insane. You know, the one part of the job is I've worked there at YCP, the Solidiance for about a month. The hours are like first 2 3 weeks were like I was trying to understand the environment and everything. I spent like a lot of time. Hours are long, but it can be rewarding in the sense that you are given new problems to solve, and that's the. So if you like problem solving, then you would like to like understand client's problem and basically solve them. Be more presentable, be very concise, and basically go through an experience sort of a thing, so that you not only impact the world and the region by making investments and things like that, but also you become better professional and sort of like position yourself first to succeed and lead organizations probably quickly within like that's the idea. So I'm looking to acquire such skills to one day probably not only lead an organization per se, but also make significant positive impact in the society. So working either in Sweden or in this part of the world, my idea would be that do something for Bhaskar, who is growing up in one of the most backward places on the planets, right? There'll be people from Nigeria, India, and many other places. So try and impact life of such kids. I also care about mental health, so try and make positive contribution to society.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, those are good aspirations to take upon and look up.
Yeah.
Now, people
Yeah,
will
they
be.
are, sorry, I'll just
Go ahead.
interrupt. And these are big aspirations. I might not even qualify to do those things, but aspirations should be big.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Aspirations should be big. Reminds me the words of David Goggins that mentioned that you should have fear in those goals that you may not achieve because in the journey you experience growth, and when you overcome and you take it, this is where the growth gets into you and you become better, and it
Yeah,
becomes cyclical and becomes like a system dynamics, like a reinforcing
yeah,
loop.
yeah,
Because if you always target for small things, you don't experience that growth that you really want to experience.
yeah, that's so true.
And people will be looking at you. Among them, there will be John Baskars
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
So, what piece of advice will you give to your younger self?
Oh, what piece of advice I would give to my. I think, you know what, I did a lot of mistakes. I've made a huge mistakes also, and I've made like right things as well. The one piece of advice I would like, I don't know if I'll change anything because I am the sum product of everything I've done so far to do all I can just to interview with Fabian, right?
Uh,
That's the thing. So I don't know if I did something wrong. I might not end up doing with an interview with Fabian. I don't know. So the one piece of advice I would give myself is and don't take too much stress. A lot of people have told me that you stress a lot, don't. So I would tell myself like, no, don't take a lot of stress. I need to remind myself every now and then that I should not. And yeah, and probably again like Vipassana meditation. If I could have done it like sooner, it's like a life-changing experience. And so basically, 11 days of silence retreat. You don't have to no one in the world has to pay any money to be in Vipassana meditation.
mhm.
So if people more and more people can go there. Amazing. Don't wait for 8 9 years to apply to MBA school. If you want to apply sooner, just apply. Yeah, I waited a lot of time because I thought my application might not be good. I don't have years of experience to come here. When I came here, I saw the broad like spectrum of people with multitude of experience. Some with 2 years, some with 20 years, right? So don't wait. And also, if you wait, then that's also all right because you can still come to the school whenever you want or if you want and take more risks. I think I did took a lot of risks, and I think if you have to fail, then fail bravely. like you must learn and be open to failures in life. I think I've failed a lot and I've learned a lot.
I cannot find a better way to close the episode. How can people find you?
Oh,
Are you on social media?
Oh yeah, I am on LinkedIn. It's Bhaskar Kaushik. I'm a student at ASB. I am on Twitter. You can follow me, Bhaskar Kaushik, BHASKAR I tweet mostly about either positive things. I tweet about like life, a little bit about politics, but I don't like try and not have a political opinion or view. I have personal opinions, and then I'm on Instagram, again Bhaskar Kaushik. You can look me up and just follow me and stay well, stay happy.
Man, I really enjoy doing this.
Thank you, Fabian.
For people
Love
who
it.
are out there, stay safe and see you when I see you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.